So the team size in making Diablo 2 grew. As you can tell, there's kind of a theme to this entire talk here. Things start to grow. It's the team size grew. It's about double what it was before. It was mainly still engineers, musicians, and artists, but now we had a designer full-time, and that's all he did was design, which was a weird concept for us. And a producer, also very bizarre. When we started out, we were just, well, when we really started out, we were 3 dudes with computers and 5 grand. But it was, eventually everybody was doing something. They were either contributing art or programming or something like that. They weren't actually, not that art designers and producers don't actually make something. They ended up proving that they are very, very worthwhile. But when we started out, it was like we had to actually pare down as little as possible. People had to work many things. So the development budget for several million, which is a massive increase over the first one. And it took a long time to make. It took about 36 months to make. And the last 12 months were a really, really, really dark time. I worked the last 12 months of the development of the product. I worked every day for the whole year except for 3 days. And I averaged 16-hour days. So it was very, very brutal. I spent a lot of time in the office, nights driving home that probably I shouldn't have. I'm lucky to be alive. And so it was a really, really terrible, hardcore thing to go through. And kind of had an impact on me for the future in the way that I would like to develop games. I wanted to avoid this kind of at all costs going forward. And some of this came from things like, shower ideas kind of put us off schedule and things like that. There were some really good ones like skills trees and things like that. Exclamation point above the head. I don't know if that's good or not. I'm not sure. Kind of mixed bag on that. And so it was designed mainly as a multiplayer online game, which was very, very different than we had approached the first one. We wanted the classes to work together much better. We wanted partying to be a real part of the game and a real point of the game. And so we really kind of designed it from the ground up. This design as client-server architecture. It's important for security, hacking, and keeping the game fun and fair, which is really, it worked and it didn't work. This is our first trial at it. We still found loopholes and things like that, but they were more easily contained, sort of, eventually we got it under control. Kind of the problem here, though, was that between Battle.net and the fact that it's client-server, is that we were kind of operating it as an online service, and it was still a packaged good, which meant that we had ongoing development and operational costs, but we had no ongoing revenue, which is kind of a problem for a business. We were basically losing money all the time on running Diablo. So we had to do it as efficiently as possible, and to the detriment mainly of the game, we ended up not being supported as much just simply because the finances didn't work. Not that we didn't make much money on the product, I'm not trying to say that, but the reality was that we tried to keep the costs as low as possible. Tens of millions of copies sold, very successful. A lot of people still playing it, so there will be a Diablo 3. Then came World War II. I have a lot to say about this project, and maybe probably best left not said. In a lot of ways, it's probably the most incredible PC product ever released. It is a force, and its ramifications are still being felt, and I don't see it really diminishing anytime very soon. So when WoW was released, some of the big games were more single-player things, were Sims, Far Cry, Doom 3, and then some MMOs really started to kind of get released, and this was really kind of where it started to kind of hit its stride. And also in general, City of Heroes, Quest 2, as well as others in some of the previous years, and things like that. So some of the notable events are Nintendo DS launches, which is great because now The MMO gaming really hits its stride. Everybody wants an MMO. Everybody's developing MMOs. They're the shit because we're going to make subscriptions. Woo! Us. Consoles are generating tons of revenue. Things are just rosy as hell. The video game industry revenue has tripled since the last slide. It keeps going up. So the development team making WoW grew to over 60. It was a fully diversified development staff that had designers and producers, tech artists, concept artists, and engineers, server engineers, and it had a fully diversified staff, which was also kind of a new trick. The development budget was tens of millions of dollars. I won't disclose how much, but it was a lot. And then the team worked on the game for 6 years, sort of. The team worked on it for 7 years, but for a year, we won't count the 1 year that they worked on something else and it was reset and changed to something, changed to WoW. So, what's that?
It started in '98.
It started after StarCraft. So, actually, the StarCraft team split in two, and someone went to go make Warcraft 3, and someone went to go make this other product that will remain nameless and was reset about a year after that changed to WoW. So WoW came out, massive success. I can barely stand up saying how massive that is. So what WoW taught the industry was like, woo, subscriptions are sexy. They solved this problem. We can support our games. We can make them huge. But we kind of need to justify taking that money from all those people. We probably need to give them some more content, but then that means that, oh, no, we have to spend a bunch of money supporting this product. And so it's kind of this dirty cycle where they, were collecting a lot of money, but they had to put more in to justify the subscription, and then the development costs never really went away, which was something new and unusual. But man, that's revenue. So companies tried to wow, and the graveyard. So, uncomfortable part of the speech. We started Flagship, and the game was released in October 2007. It took us. This kind of explains Hellgate in a nutshell. Penny Arcade did the best job. We had a lot of challenges. Development staff ballooned to over 100. It took 5 years to make the product. We tried to do way too much. It was ridiculous. We tried to create this new genre. We tried to build our first over-the-shoulder game, real true 3D, environments using polygons and 3D math and things that we had never done before. We'd worked on a little bit of this stuff at Blizzard, but we had never done this before from scratch. And we built everything from scratch. We built all of our tools, all of our engine, all of our backend, everything from scratch, which was a large undertaking. And we didn't manage almost anything very well there. It was kind of harsh because we had come from Blizzard where we had, we were lucky enough to have great support from the people above and be able to say, well, the product really needs an extra 6 months, and then come back another 6 months later and say it needs another 6 months, and have the funding and revenue and the belief that we're going to make something good. When you have your own company and you're relying on other people's money, that money runs out. And so we didn't do a very good job developing. We didn't do a very good job with finances. We certainly didn't do a a very good job with expectations that were through the roof, and our subscription messaging, well, you know, you saw it. So we tried to solve the problem through this kind of hybrids. You could have subscriptions and play some ongoing content, but you didn't need it. We kind of wanted the best of both worlds, but we ended up getting, well, you know, called our dead. So some of the things that we didn't do very well in the development is that in a lot of ways we developed the game very much like we were developing, well, Diablo and Diablo 2, which was kind of disorganized. And things have really kind of changed by this time. When we started making Diablo 1, I had these sharp ideas that come in, and it's like, all right, we're going to put a chest in the game. Okay, awesome, that sounds like a good idea. I never thought of that. And so the artist would run off, he'd make a chest, it'd be 4 frames of animation or something like that. We'd cut it out, go sprite through, boom, 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 it's in, and it's in 3 hours. Awesome, perfect. Now we got a chest in the game. This thing is awesome. When it comes to making games today, I say, so I have this great idea in the shower, I want to put a chest in the game. They're like, all right, awesome. Okay, well, we're going to have Bobby go over here. We're going to have him sketch some chests. Okay? And so Bobby goes away and he sketches some chests. A couple days later, he comes back and he's got 27 concepts of chests. Which one? Well, we're going to make sure that it works with the right themes and the right backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. Okay, all right. All right, so we'll make that, and then we got to go hand it to the modeler, and then we got to go hand it to the texture artist, and then we got to go hand it to the animator, and then we have to put it in with the tech artist, and then they have to put it in the game. The programmer has to rig it up, and that requires a couple people. We got to get special effects guys in there. And it's like all of a sudden it was 2 weeks to make this freaking chest. And that kind of explains a lot. It explains a lot about the changes that are in the industry, which is that it's really hard to do almost anything now that should seem like a simple task. And I could no longer come in and say, I want to do this, because that would ruin like 4 people's work for 2 weeks. And it was just way too expensive. And so some of this was that the development methodologies that we were using to make Hellgate, well, they weren't agile development, which is really coming to its own at this point in using Scrum. And so towards the end of Diablo, the end of Flagship and the end of Hellgate, we switched over and became much more conscious of the decisions we were making, and we were able to, finish the best we could, which was, well, not super great. So that kind of taught me a lot of hard lessons, and so I'm applying those to the future. And in some ways, it was kind of, wow, we're in kind of a post-world, wild world at this point. So where do we go now? Well, it turns out that it's not all doom and gloom. That there are some successes and some very big success stories. Some of the rise of this kind of like small development, indie-style gaming really is taking the industry by storm. Things like Brevik, Geometry Wars, Plants vs. Zombies, Minecraft. These are small teams with small budgets, and they're making real revenue. And this is kind of like what it used to be. And so some of the lessons you can learn from this are be creative, be constant and conservative in your vision. They don't make excuses. Kind of like Brave. It's like, well, we made this game and this is really cool mechanic and you can reverse time and it's a platformer and so if you die, you just go back a little bit and you're not dead. And then, oh wow, that's a really great idea. Oh, but then we're gonna hook it up to the internet and we're gonna make sure that 27 people can be playing at the same time, and then we're gonna add a shooter to it. And they didn't make any excuses to doing that. They made it what it was. Plants vs. Zombies. It's not, they made it a pure, fun experience and focused on what was important, something that we can all learn from. And what else you can learn is that you don't need to spend $25 million to make big revenues in the PC world.